you know. Such a pretty smile, I want to see it once in a while. But you were right for me. You were right for me.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. It's time for Real Raw Recovery. I believe this is episode 14. Boom, boom, boom. I'm Joe Tilley from Newcastle, Ontario.
Tyler Tilley, Bangkok.
Bangkok. Whoa. Today, the reading. Take it away, Bangkok.
Do you think this episode will hit as hard as Andy Ruiz?
I don't know, man. Andy Ruiz can hit. He can hit. He can hit hard.
He had over 100 amateur fights.
Yeah, and you know what? He's what? He's lost one of his 30 fights as a pro, and yet he was 25-1 underdog. I mean, well, a lot of guys he's fought were journeymen. I mean, he hasn't had like the kind of quality fights that Anthony Joshua had, but man alive, did he ever? The guy's good. The guy's good. He deserved a lot more respect than he got, obviously, because the guy can fight.
But that just puts him. But really, what that did is really it now ranks Wilder number 1, Fury number 2, and Joshua number 3.
Probably, although the Fury Wilder. So you think Joshua number 1? No.
Deontay Wilder.
Wilder number 1. Yeah. See, Wilder or Fury as number 1. I don't know. To me, that's a toss up.
Well, they're fighting again in 2020.
Yeah. I mean and that's going to determine it, because if watching that fight, Fury won that fight. That's not to say that Wilder won't win the next one. I mean, the guy's. He's got incredible punching power, but I don't know. It's hard to say because Fury is a good boxer. So, if he can avoid being clocked by Wilder, then
I'd rather sit down and have lunch with Fury, but he will not beat Wilder the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see.
No way.
We'll see.
So, who's reading?
You are.
Letting go of our old selves. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all things which we have omitted and are objectionable? AA page 75, 76. The 6th step is the last preparation step. Although I have already used prayer extensively, I have made no formal request of my higher power in the first 6 steps. I have identified the problem, come to believe that there is a solution, made a decision to seek the solution, and have cleaned house. I now ask, am I willing to live a life of sobriety, of change, to let go of my old self? I must determine if I'm truly ready to change. I review what I have done and become willing for God to remove all defects of character in this next step, I will tell my Creator that I'm willing and I will ask for help. If I've been thorough enough, if I've been thorough in the preparation of my foundation and feel that I am willing to change, I am then ready to continue to the next step. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we will ask God to help us be willing. I'm going to jump in right off the bat and just say, let's have a moment of silence.
Okay. God,
God,
grant us the serenity. To accept the things we cannot change. Courage to change the things we can. Wisdom to know the difference.
I just got myself a soda.
Did ya?
Yeah.
Nice. Sipping a soda?
I still think in retrospect, after all this time and all of this self-dissection and growth and living out the 12 steps, I still believe 6 and 7 are the most pivotal and the most important.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I still, even after all this time, I still think it's the crux of the program, the acme, the apex. Because if you change, then you can go on to making amends. If you don't change, then you're still the same scumbag doing the same old shit. Only this time you've told somebody about the shit you've done. Like I also believe like that restoration of sanity is at this area, or at least the attempt to pivot in a new direction. And if you pivot in a new direction and you start taking steps in that direction, then by all means go start making some amends. But if you haven't even attempted changing old behaviors, adapting old behaviors and transmuting old behaviors into healthy behaviors and healthy perspectives, then like I just think there's a lot more emphasis that needs to be put on 6 and 7. Not even that there isn't. I just think like that's just my personal, I guess, spin on it. Where I just feel that, there's that prayer where there's love, let there be. Where there's hate, let there be love. What is that prayer? Francis of Assisi.
Saint Francis, yeah.
That to me is a really great way to, like, especially for the indoctrination of step 6 and 7, or even the 7 deadly sins, like what would be the opposite of those. And then after doing an inventory and seeing like where you have certain patterns or certain behaviors that need to change, because you can do it in a few stages too, because like most people don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want to be a bad guy. Okay, so I want to change that. You don't really need to jump to things like, oh, I'm not ready to change that. Fine. But what are you willing to change right away? Well, I don't want to act like a dick in my home. I don't want to be a jerk to my family. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good starting point. And then you're going to move.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. But you know what, though? I don't know if, see, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're the most important steps. I think I think to me it's maybe underrated, because between the 2 steps, there's like 1 page in the big book that's dedicated to step 6 and 7, and where you got like 43 pages and more,
Step 1,
including 43 pages plus a doctor's opinion for step 1, and then for the 6 and 7, you got 1 page for 2 steps. So I think that part of it is underrated, and it's obviously important to change. But 6 is, to me, it's like step 6 is getting the willingness to change, and step 7 is making that decision to change. And so, and asking for help to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if there's any step that's more important than another. I mean, step 1 is important. You got to get step 1 before you can get step 2. You got to get step 2 before you can get step 3, and on and on. But it's, what's the most important step? I don't know. I mean, it's maybe step 1 is because if you get step 1, then you got to start. But in any case, it may be for sure overrated, if certainly among the important steps, and definitely underrated, and underemphasized. But it's funny because I just been reading the Drop the Rock, and then we're going to start into Drop the Rock, the ripple effect right away with my daily inventory group, and I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed the Drop the Rock, and looking forward to reading Drop the Rock, the ripple effect, to see what else is down the pike, as they say, and then coming down the pike, and then. Yeah, so it's it's about really getting yourself to be willing, identifying what the problems are, and getting yourself to a point of willingness, and then starting to act as if you have changed, and then the change kind of follows.
So are you telling me you disagree with me, Joe Tilley?
Yeah, I disagree with you.
But you're not just acting as if, you're acting with the power of God, and that
right.
he removes the defects of character. It's you're not just acting as if, and you're not, and essentially it's happened. You are now, at that point, you are a changed individual because you brought God in to remove them.
Yeah, but the change is it changes as a result of what's happened before. Change as a result of becoming, making the decision to turn my will over, and now doing a searching and fearless moral inventory, identifying what my character defects are, and seeing where I need to change, and then step 6 and 7 is making that decision with the help of my power to change. And it's a process, right? And we don't change overnight. We start to change
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I really think I can, so to rebut what you said, I can't think of a more important series of, I can't think of something more important than that pinnacle
of changing. Right.
That's what it's
that's okay. So maybe, yeah, you're right. It's very important. No question about it. We have to change. Otherwise, what's the point?
But specifically changing old behaviors.
Yeah. We can't be the same person and
Correct.
continue to do the same stuff. So yeah, very important. But if I don't have step 1, if I haven't, admitted that I'm powerless.
Yeah, but that's pretty straightforward. There's nothing complex about that at all. Nor to even.
Yeah, but it doesn't lessen its importance. It doesn't lessen its importance, because if I don't get step 1, then I'm not. I'm lost. I'm useless. It's useless. What am I doing here? If I don't have step 1, what am I doing here?
Yeah, but most people, in my experience, would just you can write that off in 10 seconds. You can move on. And I agree with you, the importance of it, but the actual shift and the rebirth, or how the second, it's doesn't come from step 1.
No, but again, that's what I'm saying. You can't make 6 and 7 more important than step 1, because you can't get anywhere if you don't have step 1. And you're not going to get to 6 and 7 if you don't have step 1. So I can't see that step 6 and 7 is more important than step 1.
Seems like you're putting all your chips on step 1 right now.
Well, you know what? When you come around, you better have all your chips on step 1, because that's where you need to start. And if you can't get step 1, if you can't admit you're powerless and your life's unmanageable, then what the hell are you doing here? Yeah, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it.
But that's a simple, all I'm saying is, okay, fine, I'm powerless. Let's move on. Okay. And let's it's pretty clear, if you're talking to a guy in detox, he's going to say, yeah, I'm powerless. Yeah. My life's unmanageable. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, God, whatever, sure. Okay, let's look at all the shit I've done. Okay, Now let's say like, okay, but now you're looking at all the things that you do that are unhealthy and unmanageable, and you're going to change those things at that point. So instead of just acknowledging it in step one, you're actually going to do something about it. And at that point, you're also bringing in this cosmic power that is bewildering and almighty and the all-seeing eye, and it's going to completely revolutionize you. And there's no going back is how much emphasis should be put on that. Because if you're at that point, once you cross the line, there's no going back. Because otherwise, if you're just flip-flopping, then don't go tell everyone how sorry you are.
But you know what? But don't you think you've already reached the point of not going back when you've done a thorough and fearless and searching moral inventory and a thorough moral inventory, and then shared with that with another human being? I mean, that to me, that's a commitment. That's a pretty big commitment. I think that's one, and that's the one. The fourth step is probably the fourth and the ninth step are the two places where most people bail, if they're going to bail. It's like that inventory, or the fear of telling somebody all our stuff, or the fear of actually just doing that inventory. And then the idea that I have to make amends, I think that's when most people bail. Because I think once we've come to that place where we've done an inventory and we shared it with somebody else, that's a commitment. That's a commitment. And so, being willing to have these character defects removed, yes, that's a commitment as well. And then humbly asking him to remove our shortcomings, that's another commitment. Big commitment. And big change. But to say that that's more important, or to me, it's almost. I honestly believe that the turning point is when we do the inventory. Well, they're all turning points. Geez, I mean, coming to making the decision, admitting we're powerless over alcohol. That's a turning point. Admitting we're powerless, because to this point we're assuming the power, and then coming to believe that the power could change that. That's a pretty significant thing. And then making that decision to turn our will and life over. That's a pretty big commitment. And then the inventory, obviously, telling somebody else, obviously. So all those things, everything, every one of these steps is a significant change, turning point, and alteration from what we've been used to and what we've done before. So those are, I'm not going to go out and say that any one step is more important than the other. I'm just not going to do that. I just I will acknowledge that steps 6 and 7 are underappreciated, underrated, not talked about enough. And really, if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to to ask to have these defects of character removed and then ask them to be removed, if you're not willing to do that, well, then you're going to get stuck. And if I'm stuck at that, like why am I not willing to have these character defects removed? Maybe I really haven't done a thorough fourth then, because if I'm not ready to have them asked removed, maybe I don't really see how these character defects are hurting me so much. Because if I realize how much these character defects are hurting me so much, how my selfishness and dishonesty and all that stuff is keeping me stuck and hurting me in so many ways and causing me pain in so many different ways, if I'm not realizing that, then maybe that's why I'm not willing to change. But when I come to the realization that these character defects are keeping me stuck and sick and hurting me, then I should be willing to change, or willing to have them removed.
So before I jump ahead and say, okay, we'll agree to disagree,
Yeah.
I really believe that there can be as much emphasis on as, when you have a preacher on the stage and he starts bringing up all the Christians on stage, and then he starts speaking in tongues and in gibberish,
Healing them.
healing and removing the devil from their being.
Yeah.
I believe that essentially that's what this step is doing. It can have that much impact on one, because if you're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And you know what? I kind of agree with that. I can see that. However, you're not going to get up on that stage unless you've done the first five. You're not going to get up on that stage. So, in order for you to get to the stage, you're going to have those first 5 proposals done. Then you're going to be willing to, because I'm not going to, because I think I'm pretty good the way I am. I'm, like I can look at myself and in my own twisted way and think that, I'm justified in all my resentments, and there's nothing wrong with the way I behaved, and I can justify everything about me. So why the hell would I want to change? I don't even see I'm not even able to see any of the damage that I've done, or the selfishness that I possess, or the dishonesty and all that other stuff. I don't even see any character defects. Why am I going to change?
There's a lot of hidden ones, but I was clearly able to see my part. Like, that was not a stretch for me to see where I'm damaged.
Yeah, but you can be damaged and just blame it on everybody else.
That's not, I don't know. I can't relate to that.
Okay, but I think you could. If you didn't do steps 1 through 5, I think you could come to the belief that you're just a victim of circumstances and people have screwed you over, and that's why you're flawed and damaged. It's not until I take responsibility for my life by doing that thorough moral inventory, I'm able to take responsibility for myself and stop being a victim and realizing that I'm the problem. So unless I come to that realization, I'm not willing to change. Change what? Change the fact that people screwed me over? I don't need to change that. I'm a nice guy. I'm funny. Ha ha ha. I got a good sarcastic sense of humor that everybody likes, I think, maybe. I don't want to change that. I'm not willing to do whatever it takes to change, because some of the things, some of my character defects, I think I like them. I think that, I'm kind of, I don't have to be entirely honest, because how the hell am I going to be wealthy if I'm entirely honest? How the hell am I going to be a fun-loving guy if I don't put other people down? If I stayed in my sickness, that's the kind of thing I could believe. And then, but then you do a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. I see how I have been I see that I am responsible for my own life, that I am responsible for all my resentments and my fears and my dishonesty and my selfishness and all that stuff. I do have these character defects. I do possess all this stuff. And if I want to be happy, truly happy, I'm going to have to change. So I've decided that because I want to be truly happy, I want to change. And that's what gets me up onto that stage, so that the healer can heal me.
But how do you
because
change?
otherwise I'm not going to get up on that stage. Why would I get up on the stage if I think I'm totally fine the way I am?
How are you going to change, though?
I'm going to change because I'm selfish. I've been selfish. I've been dishonest. I've been a liar, cheat, and a thief. I've been all these things, and I've been blaming other people for all my unhappiness. And now I've come to the realization that I am responsible for my happiness or unhappiness. So I'm going to have to start changing. And if I start being honest and I start being helpful, I could be a different person than I was before. So I identify that as character flaws. So now I ask the power of my understanding or misunderstanding what the best way for me to change is going to be. And then the power will direct me in that way of change. And I just start putting one foot in front of the other, and just, and I say, okay, I'm going to be there at 7:00. And then I go, oh shit, you know what? Make it 7:30. Let's be honest here. I'm going to be 7:30. So then I'm going to say things like, yeah, you know what? You know what? I have, I have $10,000 in the bank. Oh shit. You know what? I only have $1,000 in the bank. Just things like that just start to happen. You just catch yourself in lies, and you catch yourself you're just gradually starting to change. But it's because I've made that decision to turn it over between the power of my misunderstanding and those around me. They can catch me on my BS, and I start to change. And the next thing you know, I'm starting to tell the truth all the time, and I'm starting to be a little less selfish, and I'm starting to, actually care about other people and getting on myself a little bit, and doing what I can to help others. And that's what the change is all about for me. I start acting as if, I start acting as if I'm an honest person. I start acting as if I'm not a selfish person. And the next thing you know, I'm a little less dishonest and a little less selfish.
I believe that you can get to a point with 6 and 7 where if the power of God in your life is going to work or not, it's at that point. And you cross the line, and you are now officially a different person. And you will now act with those defects of character removed. And then, yes, you'll start to act as you were mentioning, like you'll start doing those things that you were mentioning. You'll start speaking with conviction and honesty and integrity. But I believe that unless God removes those, you are not sought.
Well, I think what happened to me is I believe I had a spiritual awakening when I did a 5th step, and a 4th step. I definitely had a spiritual awakening. I had a alteration in the way I looked at life and myself. And because of that, I was willing to have those defects removed. And then I asked for those defects to be removed. And what happened was, yes, I started to become a different person. And that selfishness and dishonesty and all that other stuff, that was stuff began to be removed. And because, I came to the realization that I'm a better person if I'm not these things. I can have a better life if I'm not these things. You know what? I'm ready. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to be a different person. And I'm totally cool with that. And I'm willing to let go all the old behaviors and all the old stuff, because it really doesn't serve me anymore anyway. And I came to that realization almost almost all at once, even though it was a process that got me there. But it was almost like the light just went on, bing, and I'm willing to change and do whatever it takes. And that's how it worked for me. But, again, it's that process of getting there. And if I don't do 1 through 5, there's no way in the world that I'm in a position to want to change, because I remember thinking about, this really buying into this AA business and changing to the point where, well, what if people don't like me the way I'm going to change? But here's one of my character defects is my need to have people like me. So, I got to get past that business, right? So come to the realization that, and I don't need people to like me. What's really important is what do I think of other people is way more important than what people think of me. But that's a process got me to that point. And so, that's that light flip was switched, but it took a process to flip that switch. And, prior to that, I really don't think I was willing to change. And I was afraid of change. I was afraid of becoming that hole in the donut. I was afraid of becoming that, an unlikable do-gooder, right? I like a lot of those things, kind of ideas that went through my mind about what if I become this? What if I become, and then they realized this, okay, finally I came to the realization, okay, what if I become that? Isn't that better than what I am? What if I become what if I do end up being that guy who stands in the street corner handing out Bibles? Because that was a guy I was so afraid of becoming. What if I become the guy who stands on the street corner handing out Bibles? What happens then? What if I become that guy? Well, it's better than dying. It's better than being the guy I am. So I had to be, have that willingness. And that's kind of where 6 and 7 comes in. It's like, okay, am I willing to become that guy? And to do whatever it takes. And I made the decision, yes, I am. I'm going to be that. I'm going to be willing to be that guy. Not necessarily be that guy, but willing to be that guy if that's what my power directs me to be. So that's the willingness.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is just I really believe I'm looking retrospectively at the program, and I'm looking at the formula and where does the change take place. In theory, it has to take place there. And so then if I double down and really look at it, like if I'm like, even, the saying, like, what's the saying, where the drunken horse thief?
Yeah.
What
if
is
you
it?
take away alcohol if you take a drunken horse thief and sober him up, what do you got?
Right.
A sober horse thief.
I understand how dramatic the 4th step is, and the 5th step and the 9th step are. They're very dramatic, right, and impactful. And there's a direct, like, you could say, like, oh, they're more like, there's a more immediate kind of reaction internally, and I agree with that. And then my appendix I would add is that the 12th step has an equal chance of being the most valuable step, because the whole premise of keeping what you have. But what I'm just looking at, the overall mathematics of the program is just like, okay, if you're up till this point, if you're the same person, even if you've told people your secrets and you've admitted you're a damaged nightmare, okay, got it. I feel like those are just kind of wishy-washy. And I understand, like, you're not, you don't have that same take, but that seems like, you put somebody in a corner, they're going to tell you anything you want to know. Fine. But if you're going to actually convert or be healed or change or have the power actually work in your life, where does it happen? It happens there. There's no other place for it. Like, you'll get magic from the 12th step, because you'll get that 4th dimension. I'm not saying you're getting the 4th dimension at the 6th and 7th. I'm just saying you're getting a different. You're no longer a horse thief. You've already like you said, you got yourself into the church. You got yourself close to the stage, but you're still a fucking horse thief. But you're just in church now. So until that actual, that's where, in theory, the psychic change should happen that they talk about, because there's no other place, like, all along. And of course it's going to happen. I'm only speaking retrospectively, and by looking at it deeper and deeper, like, where would the change of my behaviors take place. Because if you're not a different person by the end of the step, well, then then something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just pinpointing where that will happen. And then I'm also putting the last reason why the emphasis is greater than any other step is because I agree, like in order for you to get there you got to take the first 5. But in order for you to continue, more importantly, you have to be healed. You have to be touched by the hand of God at that point. Otherwise, you cannot make an amends for being the same person. You haven't changed. So why would you start telling everybody you're sorry?
Yeah. No, and that's why it's all, they're all interrelated. They're all part of the deal, and it's like, that's why there's none that are more important than anything else. You know, there is a shift that happens every step along the way. There's a shift. You know, and you're right. That's you know, that may be the very point where the healer touches you and says, there, you're healed, boom, and boom, it happens, you're healed. That may be the very point. But you've done the legwork to get to that point already. You know, and then after you get to that point, sure, then you're willing to make those amends, because again, you've made that commitment to change. And the power has directed you in that. The power has directed you to do that work.
And in theory has granted it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Has granted you that, has granted you a rebirth or a second chance at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point. So yeah, I mean, yeah, again, it's all, yeah, it's very important. Not the most important part, but maybe a part where you can see the change, where you can literally actually see the change and pinpoint the change. But all the other work has got you to that place. So yeah, very important.
The most important.
No, not the most important. No, because then now we're just getting into semantics here. It's like it's not really. Yeah, no, not the most important. Perhaps the most underplayed, underrated, but definitely not necessarily not necessarily the most important, but very important.
I forgot you work the Joe Tilley program. You don't work the program.
No, I worked the Glass Joe program.
Right. I named last episode Glass Joe.
I saw that. That was good. Glass Joe. That was funny. So yeah. So anyway, what else do you get out of that?
I got something. Hang on. It left me, but it should come back. You can add something if you have something, or like change the course of our conversation. I had something I wanted to bring up.
Well, I no, I think that covered the reading pretty much for me. Yeah, you mean basically, yeah, for sure. I mean, I got the willingness, and thank God I got the willingness, because you know, I guess I did. It came down to didn't like who I was, and I was able to get the desire to change, the needed desire to change.
Well, okay, so something's coming pretty. So let me speak from experience. So I thought I would let it go, but so I think why I haven't. I guess I have to add one more thing, and it would be hopefully my closing statement. So when I worked the 6th and 7th step, it was directly after the 4th and 5th step. It was the same period, and that's also how I guided a few other individuals. And you get down on your knees.
Yeah.
And you would say a prayer together. I said a prayer together with my sponsee at the time, or another man, and where you were really bogged down by your old behaviors. So, and you would even bring in, I think we did read the Francis of Assisi, but emphasizing at that point, when you get down on your knees, you will rise as a new man. If God is going to, if you are sought and have the faith that God can change you, it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing more powerful than that. Yes, you'll get, again, there's more dramatic things than that, but not necessarily either, because it wasn't my first time working the steps that I felt like that. It was just more moving along. It's like, okay, yeah, you got it. People hurt you. You're a scumbag. Yeah, you got a problem. You got an addiction problem. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that, like, it's not, again, like when you first work, it's more dramatic than what I'm suggesting. But when you work them again, or really relook at it again, you're now, I just want to emphasize, we are entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. And those 7 deadly sins, those patterns that have been haunting you, those feelings of guilt and shame, and that weigh you down, and they are going to transmute into love, strength, and courage, and confidence as of now. And then you really pray at that point that you're going to get sought, and that you will rise a different human being. And that, and in retrospect, and then learning that, and then sharing that with other men, that's, if God is that powerful, it is then and now. It is then and there.
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere else that is going to take place. There's nowhere else for that. You'll get spiritual lightning bolts through helping others, and it might even feel better. I'm not, but it's just like, as far as you not being the horse thief any longer, it is at that specific point. Because if that doesn't work, nothing else, you got no fucking hope. Maybe you got to go try some psychedelics in the forest, because you got no chance, my friend. Because either God will, or could and would.
Right.
And it's when, what could and would, when, now.
Yeah, but you see, but I still want to say, I mean, that could be the moment, like the moment the light goes on, right? The moment the switch is flipped. And that could be for you, right? That could be the moment that it's flipped for you, and that's the very, that's when it all happens. But I just want to reiterate, there's no way in the world you're getting to that point if you haven't done the work before that. And so that could be like, we stood at the turning point. We asked his, what is it, the line? We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care. Yeah. Anyway. I don't know why it's not coming to me. Anyway, we stood at the turning point. And so there it is, the turning point. And because I've been made aware of all this stuff by the work I've done beforehand, I'm now at the turning point. And if you talk about, it talks about we're building an arch through which we shall walk a free man. Have we skipped on the cement Is the cornerstone in place? Is the keystone there? You know, are we ready? Is that arch ready for us to walk through a free man? And, you know, that's when we look at those first 5 proposals and decide that, yes, all the stuff is in place. I haven't skimped on the cement. I haven't, you know, it's all there. It's all ready for me to go. And so I'm going to take this monumental step and walk through that arch to freedom. So yeah, that's pretty huge, right? That's pretty, you know, like even the way it's described in the book and you know, throughout the steps. Yeah, important.
I feel like if you were discussing with Buzz Aldrin, your argument would be, so Buzz, you're telling me the greatest step you ever took was when you actually stepped onto the space aircraft, correct? He'd be like, actually, no, Joe, the greatest step I took was when I walked on the moon.
No, so the greatest step you ever took was when you went to astronaut school.
Yeah, right.
You know, when I went to astronaut school and I went to astronaut high, and then after astronaut high, I went to University of Astronaut. That was pretty important. And then, you know, and then I went did all those experiments, in anti-gravity experiments. That was pretty important. I walked on the moon.
Did you listen to Buzz's talk?
No.
Yeah, you got a talk on. I think you can even YouTube it, or it's on XA speakers.
Really? Eh?
Yeah.
I can listen to that.
Yeah. Heads up. It's good to put on before you go to sleep.
Really? Eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little lackluster for the man who walked on the moon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But that's just my opinion. But
in that case, I should listen to it first thing in the morning when I've had 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
So I can stay awake.
No, he did. I don't know what. Maybe it was not his best talk, but it was the only one that I could find that it was recorded. Because I'll steer the conversation. I get a lot out of people, which is a reoccurring theme through all our talks. That is, I really get inspired by people who do shit with their lives and then happen to be sober, not the other way around. I get really excited. I'm like, oh my God, that guy's fucking sober. How amazing is that? Versus going, that guy's sober, and then trying to find little like spots of light where he's thriving. It's just like, no, I like people doing big shit. And then you're like, oh, did you also know that Buzz was sober? You're like, get out. Like that to me is those are the cherry on top for me, like that kind of stuff. Like when someone's doing something great and then, and they're sober, it's like, yes. Versus like, kind of like find somebody sober, then find out that they're doing something great is like hard. Like it's not as fun. But when I find like somebody's just doing big things and like, and even just like, not necessarily like on the world stage, but just when you meet like a really good person and then you're at like dinner with them and they're like, actually, no, I'll just have a water. You're like, yes. It's like, I just love that. Like, but I don't like I like the common denominator of people who are great doing great things. And then, there's like an asterisk. And in that asterisk, it's like, yeah, they're sober. But just to be like in tune with other people who are sober, that as I've grown in sobriety and in my life, just because you're sober doesn't mean a lot anymore. Like it's like, yeah, it's great, good for you. Like, are you a good person or not? Like, it doesn't really mean so much. It's like, good, I guess you like prolonged your life 20 years, but are you a good person or not? And so it's like, I don't put so much like, oh, you're sober, so well, get in my car and I'll take you wherever you need to go. And hey, stay at my house tonight. Fuck no. No. And I also learned that by traveling is like, whereas like I what really pulled my heartstrings, or people that are really trying for a better life but got fucking nothing, and are willing to grind and like do what it takes. It's like, you know, like one of my first revelations in Thailand is that you can't just be poor here and somebody's going to take care of you and send you a check in your mailbox. That ain't happening. You go out and you sell fucking fruit and you smile and you go out and you do this and you do, like, you grind. There's no like crutch, or there's no backstop or something to hold you up. And I'm not saying like, hey, Canada's amazing. That's what makes Canada great. We care about people who are deranged and have mental problems. That's beautiful. It'd be great if Thailand did too, but it's just when you see that, it's so much more inspirational to go, hey, you know what? I got some extra time. I got some extra ideas for you. Or my buddy in Lao, who I always like come back to, is like, he works so fucking hard and he eats rats.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a kid who eats rats and you compare that to some junkie who lives in his mom's basement with an opioid addiction, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, no, it's good to be like, I agree. I see where you're coming from. It's like being inspired by people who do great things with as much as the wonderful things with what they've been given, like the circumstances they've been giving. They're able to do some pretty cool things with that. And, you know, it doesn't have to be like world, like successful on a world stage. It could be just, you know, just he's eking out a good living with under some very trying circumstances, and it's awesome. And that's great. So it's more important to be a good person than it is to be a sober person. It's more important to utilize whatever gifts you've got and be inspiring to other people that way than it is just to be sober. Because being sober is just a start.
Okay, yeah, you agree with me.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much emphasis on the element of sobriety, and in my experience, it doesn't really hold that much weight.
Well, no, I mean, if you're okay, like, I mean, if it's all about just, okay, hey, man, I've got 7 years. Oh, wow, I've got 9 years. Well, I've got 25 years. I got 50 years. Means nothing. Means dick. None of that means dick, because you're not, you know, what's important is what are you doing with your life? And that's obviously what, you know, I think what you're talking about here. And I 100% agree with you. And I, you know, I can be inspired by people. They don't have to be sober to inspire me. I'm inspired by people who are doing good things. People who are doing good things. And whether they're doing good things for other people or whether they're doing good things for themselves that are inspiring other people, all those things, you know, they're doing good things, and that's inspiring. And just being sober is not the end all and be all. And and that's right, it's not the end all and be all, but it's a good place to start for somebody like me. Because none of the other stuff happens if I don't get that.
I know, but I guess that's where we come into. It's like I just don't. That's not the same message I share after 20 years.
What do you mean?
It can't be. That cannot be the message I share with the world. It has to be regarding what you just said.
You mean for me to say, you know, I'm inspired by people who do good things?
No.
Or me talking about just having time.
No,
just
after
having
that,
a period of sobriety.
After that, you said.
That's a good start.
No, and then after that, you said.
It's not the end all and be all?
No.
If I don't have the start, it's a good place to start. Being sober is a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I agree. We agree about that. But then he said, but for someone like me, said something about someone like now I lost my complete train.
For someone like maybe that's not enough. I'm just starting, just having sobriety. That's not enough. Maybe that's it.
No, we agree about that. It's the other way around. It's just like it just. I'm not the kind of person to put saying the same thing again, but just with a different context. I'm not the same. I'm not gonna. I just don't have. For some reason, I don't have. I don't put so much emphasis on the fact whether an individual is sober or not, and I put on
Right.
and because I think that's an internal thing that like I cannot be the man I am today if I wasn't sober. So
Right.
that's like that's a personal journey that I had to go on. Now my output,
Right.
though, the output that I produce is what's valuable. It's not just the fact that I've gone through this struggle and got sober and maintained it. That's great, good, but what's the output? Like that's the input. Now what are you producing and what's happening and what are you creating and what is manifesting from that gift?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just always my like so for me to come back as if sobriety is that important is really like, well, we always say the stats like, like let's imagine 10% have a like obsessive compulsive disorder revolving around addiction. If only 10%, like what the rest of the world are doing. So like it just like and there is a time and a place where it's really important to put personal emphasis on how important sobriety is and the magic of it. Like I'm not trying, it's just, but I'm just more focused on the output of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And
yeah.
you can't have, I think that's what you said, which struck a nerve for me is like, you can't have that without being sober. That's what it was. And I was like, yes, I like fine, but after 26 years, that's just not my message. Like, I don't, that's what's, thank you. I had to work all the way around to get to that point again, but it was that you said like, I wouldn't have this beautiful life if I wasn't, yeah, okay. But like, it's not like you're 26 months in saying that. Like, I gotta, like, if you're 26 months, you better be saying that. I just feel that for me, I've grown in a way where it's really important to put the majority of my emphasis on what's happening today and what's in motion, what are like using my kid, like when I made that shift at 6 and 7 and I've changed and I've adapted new behaviors and positive characteristics, and then you put those into motion, what does that equate?
It equates. It's putting your gifts in. It's putting your gifts to good use.
Right.
And yeah. So and the gifts which you got from the program, it's putting those gifts to good use. And then so when we see people putting their gifts to good use, it's inspiring for us, and for me, it's like inspiring, and then and to find out that that guy's sober, and that's really cool because then I can relate to them at a different level too, and it's fun.
Super fun.
Yeah. As we said earlier, it's great. I like that. All right, God. Grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you. Bhagavad Gita.